Hello, everybody. This is Mike Young with aPlantBasedDiet.org, and we've got with us our first video with Trish Smith, who is a food and nutrition advisor for us, specializing in childhood nutrition, which is a huge and incredibly important, probably the most important topic for nutrition. Welcome, Trish.
Hi, thank you very much. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Yeah. So give us a little background on like how you see your role with children, because this is so important. I mean, I think a lot of parents may not even know where to begin if you're talking about a society that is centered around animal products. And of course, plants is the exact opposite of that in many ways. And what kind of experience do you have in this too? What's your background?
Absolutely. So I'll give you a super quick snapshot. I was actually raised on a completely vegan, plant-strong diet, which is not typical for most. We're sort of the minority, those who started from childhood. But what happened with me is I jumped off the bandwagon, so to speak, and I wanted to make my own decisions, and I did, and I went down a terrible health path and because of the standard American diet.
Well, how did that happen? I'm just curious, because when did that happen? Like between what years?
So it started mostly when I got into high school. That's where it really went. You know, before that, any opportunity I had to, I started to have access to sodas when I was at friends' houses that I was never able to have at home. And these little things that I thought, or if I'm, again, at a friend's house and they're cooking dinner, I was a kid,
When in Rome.
Like, I'm not going to be rude, but I ate it anyway. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, and were you attracted to it? I'm just curious because, like, from my background, I never liked eating animal products. I actually thought meat was disgusting from an early age, and I only was forced to eat it by my parents. I didn't draw the connections between dairy, but meat itself, I wouldn't eat it until I became a teenager, like you're saying. And then when you're a teenager, it's like peer pressure, right? It's like everybody's doing this. I guess I'll try it, and of course, a McDonald's processed burger tastes nothing like actual meat or even looks like it. So,
yeah, it's so true. And to be perfectly honest, I was just drawn in because it was tasty, so to speak, which is really just the fat and the salt. I had actually struggled with my weight my whole, from an early childhood time on, and I had sort of picked up an overeating habit. And we all know, if we've ever had salt, fat, or sugar in any combination in animal products on top of it, it entices you. We're addicted to it. Dairy, super addicting. We know that it has casomorphines in it, which causes us to want more and more and crave it. So I just kind of got sucked in. What was it? It was society. It was peer pressure. It was normal. I wasn't normal.
Right.
And I think that nowadays, young people growing up have a huge opportunity because that stigma is changing, and we're changing it, which is awesome. Yeah.
And you see that you have younger kids, right? How old are your kids?
Okay, so I kind of have an interesting circumstance. I have 2 bonus daughters, okay? So I don't like to use the term stepdaughters because I like the term bonus daughters. So I got 2 bonus daughters when they were early teens, like young to early teens. And they ate a standard American diet. And what was awesome was I got to introduce vegan foods to them. It was never forced. It was simply an option. And as the options rolled in, they're like, this tastes great. And they started cooking and they started really enjoying it. And they, on their own, one has completely gone and the other one is, I would say, about 80%. And it's just by introducing them to the foods and sharing with them, why are these a better option, and why, if you have the choice, try and make the best choice you absolutely can. So that was one avenue. And then I got pregnant with fraternal twins. And so I have 20-month-old twin girls. And so what's awesome about them is they have had nothing but plant-based nutrition from conception. So in the womb and out. So they have had fabulous, food options. And that has really kind of sparked my passion for it, because I started with the older kids, which is interesting. Normally it's backwards,
Right.
but I got to introduce it to them. And I have found with young people, if you tell them they have to do it, they're probably not going to want to do it. With the babies, it's completely different. You tell them they absolutely have to, because they don't get the option yet.
They're helpless. Well, they don't even know any different at that point in time. So how much time did that take with the bonus kids? How much, like, what kind of a time frame are we looking at where this transition took place?
So truthfully, my home was always 100% plant-based. So when they were with me or with us, that was the option. If we went out, they got to choose, but they were introduced to a completely vegan home, which for them was different, but they completely embraced it. They ate foods that they enjoyed. They got to try new things, which was great. So how long did it take? I would say probably about over a 2-year process. It wasn't a drop in a bucket, but once they kind of got it, it was really cool to see step by step. They just picked it up on their own and ran with it.
Okay. Well, what do you suggest to other parents out there that might be in a similar situation? Is it going to be like, because most kids are not born vegan, right? So there's going to be a transition. How do you do that? Because you did it, no animal products, but is that the only way to go? Is it the best way to go? What do you think?
Absolutely not. Okay, so I have 2 separate sort of scenarios with my babies. That was 100% right out of the gate, and they have done fabulous. They have thrived, had no issues. They are healthy. They're strong. They are fabulous eaters. But on the flip side, if you're a parent or a guardian starting with a child who that's not their norm, that is absolutely, you have to decide as a parent, what route am I going to take? And that's kind of step number 1. I don't feel that anybody can say this is the best way and the only way to do it, because every circumstance is different. But I do encourage people to create some type of a plan. So if you decide as a parent that, say they're starting with only one thing, say they're going to eliminate whatever they choose, it has to be their choice and they have to start with it. And I always suggest introducing foods that the kids already enjoy. So introducing vegan foods that they already like. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, the options are out there. We are inundated with options at the grocery store when you go out to eat. So it's not as hard as it used to be. So I don't think there's one perfect way. I think the younger you start, the easier.
Right.
But
okay.
Start somewhere.
And you're saying, it sounds like you're kind of saying, like, well, first of all, the parents got to set the example, right? I mean, the parent has to be doing it actively.
Precisely.
Okay. And then make that transition however you can. Going back to the babies, though, is it dangerous? I mean, I don't know if you've even experienced this yet, because they haven't eaten any animal products. Is it going to be dangerous if they get something like that in their mouth, or some kind of super highly processed, like salt, sugar, and oil added food? Like, are you trying to keep all that away from them? Like, what's your thought on all of that?
So personally, what my husband and I have chose to do with our babies, they have never had any processed foods, any processed sugar. Now, for their first birthday, I made them a smash cake out of watermelon. And then I whipped coconut milk, and they had a little bit of pure maple syrup in the coconut milk. So that's as refined of the sugar that they have had access to as of yet. So personally, we have chose to start them out as best as we can. And I tell you what, those girls choose whole foods over, even, like, they will choose blueberries over bread. They will choose, so they have never had anything. Do I think it's dangerous? I certainly don't want to give it a try. Here's what I can compare it to. Parents are often encouraged to be very careful when they introduce nuts to a baby, because nuts could be an allergic reaction. So I can only imagine that if they ever were to get animal products in some way and we didn't know about it, if they had a reaction, it could very well be harmful, dangerous. We just don't know. So we are choosing to try and be as whole food, plant-based with the babies as we can. So they're not doing any processed food right now. So yeah, I hope it's not, they'll get it eventually. Cross-contamination somewhere. And I hope it doesn't harm them. Yeah.
That sounds logical to me. Obviously, I'm a parent, but I've never been in a position where I was raising babies like that, although I'd love to have that experience because I think you're doing the right thing, and it sounds like not only are you doing the right thing, you're doing it in the right manner because I think my own thought would be you have to keep this other stuff away. There's a reason why people are hooked on this other stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't, it's almost like they say, like, about drugs, just don't ever do them because once you start doing them, it's so hard to get off, right? And so I guess we're viewing it in the same way, right?
Absolutely. And that's what it kind of has to be. Do the very best you can from the get-go if you have that opportunity. If not, parents who are starting out middle of the road, my suggestions and my tips to them right out of the gate is pick your kids' favorite foods that they already enjoy that are plant-based, and then have transition foods for them. So say as you're trying to transition them away from dairy, if you don't want to make it from scratch, try one of the plant-based cheeses that you can buy in the grocery store and transition that. Even if it's as simple as a grilled cheese sandwich and your kids eat lots of grilled cheese, or say you make lots of quesadillas for them. If whatever their favorite fruit is, I encourage the parents, give them that fruit or those fruits at every single meal and transition those other foods. Like try making them a vegan quesadilla, and baby step it that way to encourage new types of foods. So don't force them to eat okra if they hate okra. That's my tip.
That's not going to work.
Yeah, it won't. And you don't want to create a negative neural pathway for the child to healthy food. So.
Well, that's what I always associated. See, like me as a child, I always associated with meat as something that was disgusting that I just didn't want anything to do with. That was just my own understanding of where it came from. Like this came from an animal. It's like muscle. It's like got veins and blood in it. Like that's how I talked myself out of it. But I can see how people could talk themselves out of vegetables too if it's gross. Because there were vegetables that I ate as a kid that I thought were disgusting as well. And that I would never gravitate towards.
Yeah,
so I get it.
It can be challenging, especially for new parents, because everything that's out there on parenting apps or what your doctor tells you, it's very heavily, they push animal products very early. I remember watching a video when I first had the kids. One of the first finger foods they wanted to introduce was cheese cubes, yogurt, and then the mom made a meatball, and she was like they're demonstrating, they're like, hey, this is great, ground beef, make it into a ball and put it on your kid's high chair and let them try and pick it up. And I was just sitting there and I'm like, this is so not. It is, your child has no dietary need for animal products. There is zero that they have to get from an animal product. So it can be very challenging for new parents because the doctors may be telling you something very different. So
is that important? That a component? Like, should you spend, or a parent spend, a good amount of time researching an appropriate physician?
Yes, absolutely. So I always encourage new parents, don't be afraid to have your own opinions and your stance, and to try and find a practitioner that will support that. They can always tell you what they think is best, but at the end of the day, you have to be willing to, search around. There's not only one option. So a great resource that I used is, it's called the Pediatric Plant-Based Nutrition Quick Start Guide. It's kind of a long name, and I will link it here so you guys can see, but This is put out by a group of plant-based physicians, and it's a fabulous resource for new parents who are genuinely concerned about the nutrients that their kids are getting, and if they're afraid that switching them to a vegan lifestyle is going to harm them in any way. And the answer is no, you absolutely will not. You will be helping your child in every way. So there's tons of
Well, let me ask a question.
yeah.
That assumes that you're doing it right, because you could always do anything wrong, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I think that the people that maybe if there's word on the street or some rumor that, oh, eating vegan is bad or eating plant-based is bad, well, I could see how someone could be vegan and eat junk food all day, and they may be no healthier or even worse than eating an animal product diet. I can see that, but we're talking about the correct way to do it, right? That's what we're talking about.
Absolutely, absolutely. There is no doubt that for every processed junk food out there, there is a vegan processed junk food. Okay. And that's what's very tricky for a lot of parents, because if you go from giving your kid goldfish to giving your kid vegan goldfish, I'm assuming they're out there. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm sure that there's some type of product out there that's nutritionally equivalent or nutritionally lacking. I don't think that you're going as far as you could. So trying to transition processed animal foods into less processed plant foods, okay, that come from a whole source. That's the right way to do it. To get optimum nutrition, you have to eat it. So there are just steps you can take, but you're not alone out there, and you have to just start somewhere. And so definitely the more real food, so things that don't come out of a bag or a box or a can, as much as possible, if you can get those to your kids, that's the best option.
Okay, perfect. Let me ask, going back to your story, I suppose, where you were raised plant-based and then you kind of moved away for it. What brought you back, and when did that happen?
So what brought me back actually was I was sick and tired of dieting and being overweight and nothing working. Well, let me take that back. All of my diets worked. Every single one of them.
Okay.
I never failed at a diet. Okay. However, as soon as the diet ended, the weight came back. So all diets work, and people who are out there saying, hey, this diet's going to help you lose weight. Yeah, you're right. It probably is, but that's not what we're talking about here. Is it going to be a long-term sustainable lifestyle that's going to give you optimal health and happiness? That's the key. So for me, I decided that I wanted to lose weight, and I thought, you know what? When's the last time in my life that I was an ideal weight and I was healthy? And it was my childhood, where I was raised plant-based. And so I said, okay, like there's more to the story than that, but that was kind of the switch for me. And I went plant-based, and it took me about 2 years, but I lost 100 pounds.
Oh, wow. Okay. Excellent. Well, you proved it to yourself. You've been through so much of this, and then now you're back to new lives. So, all the wisdom that you've gained and all the experiences that you've had, and I know that you've had lots of training as well in this nutrition area. You're putting to practical use, which is amazing. And then we'll get to hear from you on a regular basis, see how the kids are doing.
Yes.
Show that. I want to see the kids just like devouring some plant food, so people can see this for themselves.
Their latest is seaweed. I thought I had opened a bag of seaweed, and I thought, hey, let's see if a 18-month-old will eat seaweed. And they both just started chowing down, and I thought it was hilarious. I said, oh, I got to get a video of this. So it's just, we will definitely stay in touch, and you guys can get to hopefully learn from me as much as I can share, because if we can just share the message in the positive way, and I think more people will be able to be willing to try it. And that's what we want. We want to help people to raise healthy kids and have happy, healthy families.
Okay, great. Well, how can people get in contact with you in the meantime?
Okay, so I actually am a lifestyle medicine educator. I teach for a couple different programs, the Food for Life program through Dr. Neil Barnard, and the CHIP program. and that stands for Complete Health Improvement Project. But you can get in touch with me through my website, which is www.plantstrong4life.com. And I also, at that website, I have access to a Facebook page, Instagram page, and a YouTube, where I simply try and share tips from my kitchen. I show you what I'm making for the twins. I show you what I'm making for me and my family. We'll do recipe videos, and there's just, stuff for you to try. You can interact, ask questions. And so come check it out, and hopefully you can get some helpful tips for you and your family.
Yeah, well, that's a great resource, and we're going to have that shown here on the video below. It should be below here in a second before we finish this video. And, feel free to tag your friends in this video, parents with kids, anybody. I don't think it matters. Just if you're just curious, right? To know that this option is out there, to know that you're someone here that's specializing in this. As a parent, I think, I know that, my kids are older now, but when my kids were younger, I was always questioning things like, what's the right way to go? How do I find out more information? So these are some great free resources for people, just not only now, but ongoing. I can't wait to see how this goes. Watch it.
Absolutely. So that's exciting. So check it out. Feel free to ask questions, my email, and you can contact me through social media as well if you have specific questions.
All right, great. Well, we will see you in the next video. Stay safe with COVID-19, and at some point I'll get a haircut and I will actually look decent in a video in the near future.
You got it. Thank you, Mike.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye.